Thank you, Chair. I have a couple more questions, Secretary. One is looking at the proposed budget and back to the topic of inflation. Sometimes the budget reflects big increases in programs. On all of the veterans programs at the Department of Labor, the increase was less than 2%. There were a couple of programs where actually programs were reduced, like state grants and transition assistance. What are you going to do about these veterans programs that have a less than 2% increase in a more than 8% inflation world?
Yeah, no, one thing that we're not cutting the veterans budget. We are increasing the veterans budget. The veterans, we work very closely.
Well, I'm not suggesting you're not increasing.
No, I'm not saying you did that. I'm not saying you, sorry.
This is a question of how much you're increasing it, and if these programs lose traction, particularly the couple of programs you're cutting. But I'm overall interested in all of these programs that don't increase, that increase by less than 2%. Other programs in the department increase by a lot. I mean, you're asking for a 13% increase in the overall budget, but the existing veterans programs all grow by less than 2%. That's my question.
Yeah, well, we're asking, yeah, thank you. So I'm just trying to get my notes here. We're asking for a 5.6% increase in our veterans budget, the bottom line. And part of that is because the Veterans Department is, when I talk about apprenticeship programs, we're including the veterans in the apprenticeship program. When I talk about workforce development and job training investments, we're including the veterans in that program as well. So it's not a, God bless you, it's not a directed line item in the workforce development for veterans, but we have veterans included in those conversations and in that money. So when we think about like the trucking challenge, we reached out, we did a trucking challenge. The Department of Labor made an investment because you gave us money, a little bit of discretionary funds to create this program. We did. The first place we reach out to is the veterans to get veterans into the program. So we're integrating our veterans office into everything that we're doing. So the veterans money is specifically the vets for them to do the outreach and do all the work that they do. And then all the other money that we have, whether it's workforce development, job training, all this, the veterans are in part of that as well.
Well, I'd only say to that, Secretary, there's a reason that we had the veterans set aside in some of these areas. And I think when we did that, the idea that, well, the veterans are included in everything else would not have been a very satisfactory answer as you're trying to focus on veterans specifically. But we can talk about that some more. My other question is, the department in the American Rescue Plan received $2.2 billion in March as part of that. Less than 5% of that's been spent. $94 million has been spent. $335 million has been obligated. So less than 5% has been spent, less than 20% or so has been obligated. What are you planning to do with that $2.2 billion?
I was just trying to, we're still spending it. I was told behind me we're still spending it. I'll have to get back.
That's a better answer than we're not going to spend it. But,
yeah, well, if you give me money, I'm going to spend it. Let me get back to specifically on what it is, where we're going, and the reasons for it. We're having challenges with hiring. We're having challenges with different pieces. Let me look into that and get back to it better.
Well, I would think some of the overall, this big increase you asked for in the overall budget, maybe there are some ways to justify this $2.2 billion to fill some of those gaps. But I'd look forward to talking to you about your plans on that money specifically.
No, absolutely. And we don't just want to spend the money just for the sake of spending the money.
Well, I agree with that.
You know, this is taxpayers' dollars. We want to make sure you spend it correctly.
Yeah. Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Chairman.